We're about to begin the services for Mr. Stephen Miller. Just as a gentle reminder, folks, if you have a cell phone with you this morning, please place it in the silent mode or turn it off completely. Thank you. Officiating this morning will be Rabbi Joseph Ozarowski.
We thank you all for coming. We're going to begin with the traditional reading in Hebrew and in English of verses from the Hebrew Scriptures, from the Tanakh, that we often say at times like this, verses that talk about the transitory nature of life as we face the nexus of life and death at this sad moment, this difficult moment. Adonai ma'adam v'teidoehu benadosh v'tachashvehu Odom lahevel damo yomov kitzel over. Zram tom shenu yu baboke kechatzir yachalof. Babok yotzitz v'chalof. Lo'erv yimolel v'yavesh. Yemei shnosein bohem shivim shana v'im bigvuros shmonim shana v'robam amal v'oven kigaz chishvena ufa. Limnos yomeinu kein hodav v'nevi levav chachma. Shmortam urei yoshoki acharis li'ish shalom. Achlim yiften ashim yat yoki kocheni sela. Podeh Aron nefesh avadav v'lo yishmu kol hachosim bo. V'yashov ha'afor al oretz kishoya v'ruach toshuv elo Elohim asher nesana. O Lord, what is man that you may regard him, or a person that you may consider him? For our lives are like a breath, our days are like a passing shadow. You sweep our lives away, they are like a dream, like grass which is renewed in the morning. In the morning it flourishes and is renewed, but in the evening it fades and withers. The years of our lives are 70, or perhaps by reasons of strength 80, yet their pride is but toil and trouble. They are soon gone, and we fly away. So teach us to number our days, that we may attain a heart of wisdom. Mark the blameless and behold the upright, for the end of that person's life is peace. Surely God will ransom my soul from the grave. God will indeed receive me. The Lord redeems the souls of his servants. None of those who take refuge in God will be condemned. The dust returns to the earth as it was, but the soul returns to God who gave it. We gather together on this morning to bid a final and fond farewell to a beloved husband and father, grandfather, relative, and friend Stephen Miller. How difficult it is to say goodbye to someone that we've cherished and loved. It's not easy to do that. And how do you sum up a life at a time like this? Our sages, Chazal, the rabbis of old, offer us their wisdom in a very beautiful midrash, rabbinic teaching that goes back about 1,500 years. The rabbis in this midrash tell a story of two ships. Ships were at the dock. One ship was coming in from its journeys, and the other ship was leaving on its journeys. And the people at the dockside were praising the ship that had returned from its voyages, but as for the ship that was leaving, they really didn't have much to say. And there were some visitors watching this sight, and they could not understand, why are you praising and cheering the ship that has returned and have nothing to say about the ship that is leaving? And they were told the following answer as the rabbis encapsulate this very important and beautiful teaching, that the ship that is returning has left its ports of call, made its stops, delivered its cargo, delivered its passengers, picked up new cargo, picked up new passengers, and has now returned safely and in peace. And that's worthy of praise. The ship that is leaving, we pray for its safety, we pray for its blessing, but we know not how it will turn out. So too it is with life. It's at the end of life that we praise a life that has now been returned to its maker and offer our remembrances and summary of its voyage in this life. And so too, we frame our few minutes together this morning as we think about and recall the life of Stephen Miller. His ship has come in, and we talk about his journey. We have a series of speakers representing his family and friends today, and I'm going to give you the order of those who are going to be speaking now. We're going to follow the order that Lynn and I developed yesterday. First, his beloved son Simcha is going to be talking. That in turn will be followed by cousin Adrian Flynn, who will be reading notes and some thoughts written by grandchildren Chana Edel-Schertzman and Tova Miller. Our third speaker will be Steve's best friend, Bruce Roman. That in turn will be followed by, again, remarks of friends from Long Island, Elaine and Stephen Mulligan, read by Lynn's cousin, Nancy Ritzy. And the final speaker, representing the family and friends, will be remarks by Doris and Mark Rhodes, read by their daughter, Lisa Powers. And so this is the order. Simcha, please come up.
Thank you, Rabbi. Dad, it's really impossible to grasp that this is happening. Everything went so quickly. You had even booked tickets to come to Israel in November to visit your first great-granddaughter together with Mom. It's very, very painful. I'll try to just mention a few memories and ideas, but it really isn't going to do justice to what Dad was. First and foremost, Dad was a dedicated family man. And acquiring things that was not his focus in life, but his family, that was what was important to him. Starting with my mom, of course, his life partner of 55 plus years. He was very, very dedicated to her, taking her places, waiting for hours patiently in whatever scenario that was needed, schlepping, I guess, for lack of a better word, in setting up her wonderful art shows, planning trips and packing, listening, soothing. Very, very dedicated husband that I learned a tremendous amount from. And he really was a family person in a broader sense too. He was the one to keep in touch with all the different relatives, the older aunts, etc. He was the one who initiated and set up a weekly Zoom meeting with his Israeli contingent and allowed us to connect and stay together. Another point I wanted to mention is that he knew who he was and he was very proud of his heritage. I remember an old memory. It was one of my first jobs at McDonald's. And something happened. They wanted me to work on a last-minute basis on Yom Kippur. And apparently they called the house. I don't know where I was at the time. And Dad said, no, it's our holiday. It's not appropriate. And a bit later, apparently, they called back again. You know, they're really pressed. Can I come in? So that was that. Dad informed me that I was going to be quitting that job, which I wasn't so happy about it at the time. But it taught me a lesson that he was proud of who we were, and I should be proud of who I am. And if that others didn't respect it, then they weren't for us. Another memory I have is at my bar mitzvah, when my dad smoked at my bar mitzvah, and I remember I saw a tremendous amount of pride in both my mom and my dad. I might think I overdid it a little bit now, but that's a different point. My dad also has a unique patience and acceptance. I have an old memory that when I was 15 or 15 and a half, I don't remember, He taught me to drive, and they had a stick shift. I don't know what you call it, manual transmission car. Maybe today they make the cars differently. I don't know. But then when you stalled the car, it shook. It wasn't so pleasant. And so he took me out to some type of an empty school parking lot on a Sunday. And he was incredibly patient. I remember that I stalled the car, I think, tens of times. Each time it's shaking, and I was feeling a little bit bad about it. I kind of even wanted him to say something, complain, a joke, groan or something. Nothing, just patient and silent and supportive. That's just one example, but I was very appreciative for that. It's an opportunity, obligation to thank all the people that are here today, really from the bottom of my heart. It's friends that really are family and family that have given so much support in the last 2 months, very difficult 2 months. And not only that, over the years, many, many years, we've been here, 44 years, something like that, when we moved, and very long-term relationships, and the gratitude really can't be expressed fully, and the Almighty should really reward everyone for their kindnesses. How can I not mention Suzanne? Her funeral was here almost 2 years ago to the day, and she's very, very missed. She's part of this as well, I feel. And we hope that Dad is going to a better place where he can be an advocate from up above and to help out my dear mom in a new and a difficult stage who's going to need a lot of support. Thank you, Dad, for all that you gave me and all that you taught me. I'm going to miss you, and we're going to miss you, and we know that your memory will be blessed. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Adrienne Flynn, and I'm Lynn's cousin, and I am going to be reading some letters that were sent from Steve's 2 granddaughters in Israel. First from Tova. Grandpa, the #1 grandpa, the best grandpa I could ask for. There are no words, but so much to say. I was so lucky and proud to have you in my life. Thank you for your love, support, kindness, and just for being the man you were and what you meant to me. I know you always had my back and your unconditional love. I learned so much from you. I miss you. I miss you already so much. I appreciate and cherish all the amazing memories I have with you. Love, Tova. And from Hannah Adel, Grandpa. I feel like no words can really describe what you are and what you mean to me. Grandpa is a role model. He loves his family so much. We were always #1 for him. He taught me the importance of family values. He always wanted us to have everything we need to make us happy and to spend time with us. It is thanks to him that our long-distance relationship worked. Ever since I could remember myself, he called every week to talk with us and came every year to be with us. So many childhood memories of trips, hugs, laughs, and shopping. Well, we shopped and he read his Kindle patiently for hours. He was so happy for me when I got married, and it was natural for him to love Yehuda as a grandson. He was so excited when we told him we were expecting. It warms my heart when I think of the smile he had. The last few months, Grandpa set up a weekly family Zoom meeting. He met Tahar, his great-granddaughter. She babbled for the first time on our last meeting. She really made him laugh. I never would believe these meetings would be the last time I see him. Grandpa, I already miss you so much it hurts. Thank you for everything. I am sorry if I ever did something to hurt you. I love you. And just a tad from me, I said Lynn's my cousin, and for the last few days, I keep thinking cousin-in-law just doesn't do it. I met Steve when I was 14. He's my cousin. And I sang at their wedding when I was 16, with an accordion, I should add. And for almost 60 years, we have visited. We have gone to festivals, we've gone to weddings, we've gone to so many different family affairs. We've had lots of visiting, and yes, Steve's favorite thing was to come to Baltimore to eat Maryland crabs. I was told I was allowed to tell one funny Steve story, so I have my favorite. If you've ever had Steve spend the night at your house, you know he is an all-night grazer. And if you prepared special foods, particularly sweets, you had to hide them anywhere. And Lynn and Steve were visiting us when we first moved to North Carolina, and we had an older dog who was on medication, and the only way Cuddles would take her medication was in cheese. And though she preferred brie, she got a slab of Velveeta. And the Velveeta was for Cuddles only, and Tom, my husband, would take a spoon, a special Cuddles spoon, and give her her pill with the cheese in the spoon, and she would eat it, and then he would scoop another for a reward, because she ate it so well. And Steve and Lynn came to visit, and the cheese was like all scooped out with little spoon marks, and you can just see what happened. We got up the first morning, and Tom shows me the cheese, and there's a straight slab. I don't know if we ever told Steve that story, but we laughed about it a lot. I think maybe we finally did. In any case, as you can tell, we had so many good times and so many wonderful memories, and life is made of memories. We will always, Tom and I will always cherish those memories, and we'll miss Steve. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn, for the opportunity to share. And there are 4 generations of my family that tear up at a good commercial, so bear with me as I talk about Steve. Judy and I are both here in spirit. My wife is hosting our grandchildren in Florida, so she stayed and I came. Judy and I have been friends with Lynn and Steve for close to 30 years. We moved next door to them in 1995, and they, having already raised Scott and Suzanne, they watched us and helped us through raising our children in the trying times of the teenage years, and they helped us with life in general. Simca shared the spirit of Steve, which I so appreciated. It was just dead spot right on. Thank you. We shared many ups and downs of life with them, usually over a glass of wine, and many times with a Lou Malnati's pizza. And we did a lot of things together, dinners out, celebrations, retirements. We burned our mortgage in their patio. And at the end, we cruised a lot with them too. So Steve was my mentor in life. He really was. And he remained that until his passing. In 2015, Judy and I moved to Florida, and in a way, so did Steve and Lynn, at least half the time they were down there. In fact, we drove together in a 3-car caravan, staying at the same hotels on the way down and sharing those now infamous glasses of wine together. So our friendship continues as we live only an hour away from them in Florida, which was just an amazing thing for us. I had a couple of jobs that Steve gave to me. I actually worked for Steve. I became his IT consultant. Many times, Steve and I sat in his office and worked on computer and printer issues. He made it easy for me because the password on his computer was Bruce. So it still might be, although Simca said it got changed. So together we set up Wi-Fi and we set up iPads. We set up a very intricate system of being able to back up Lynn's photographs to different backup systems so we didn't lose Lynn's photographs. And another important IT development was setting up earphones for Steve so he could listen to TV at the volume that he wanted to and Lynn be satisfied, so that we worked on that too. As we know, Steve and Lynn loved to travel and travel and travel. In fact, I think Celebrity is going to name the next ship after them. But Steve, being an insurance agent, always wanted access to his files because he always wanted to be available to his clients. So his desktop PC had all his files on it, and he wanted access to the computer while he was touring the world on cruise ships and others. Mind you, this is in the late 90s, so technology wasn't the same back then. But we found solutions that worked most of the time. But when there's a power failure, the desktop computer turns off and somebody has to turn it back on again. So that's when I got my second job that Steve hired me for, was to be the household security person. So I became the security specialist and learned how to turn off the alarm, go upstairs, turn on the computer, come back stairs, turn off the alarm, and get out of the house before the alarm went off again. And in this new role, Steve appointed me the main contact for the alarm company and the police department. So every fall when the leaves fell and Steve and Lynn were comfortably cruising somewhere in the world or visiting in Israel, the alarm system would go off and I'd get the call from the police and the alarm company and take care of that. And that's when we decided to cruise with them. So with us today is Matt, who took my job over as household security person, and we cruise together and continue to share life together. As Simca said, Steve so loved Lynn. He made her birthday special, her anniversary special. He made her vacation special. But sorry, Simca, I'm going to say it again. His favorite role was being Lynn's schlepper. And boy, could he schlep. All those art shows, artwork in and out of the car, set up the tent, take down the tent. I even got to be the schlepper's assistant a few times, but not often enough to earn a schlepper shirt like he had. One of the great events recently was Lynn's 75th birthday. He so wanted to throw this big bash, and he was very successful at doing that. Over 100 people with drinks and dinner and dancing, and so much fun, so much love. And the memories of Steve and Lynn dancing together will stay with Judy and I forever. The smiles on their faces are permanently etched in my mind. And then, Simca, you caught it too, the grandchildren, how he loved and was so proud of his grandchildren. The special weekend for each one of them individually, flying to Israel, having later, when the girls got older, having the girls fly here. When he shared those stories, that was the biggest smile that would be on Steve's face. And Steve loved the great fortune of becoming a great-grandfather, a privilege not a lot of people get to have. So I'll miss our chats, I'll miss our camaraderie, I'll miss his advice. I miss his advice on money and insurance and trusts and life and all the things we talked about. I'll always be grateful to Steve and to Lynn too for being the role models for Judy and me. I love you, Steve. I love you, Lynn.
Hi, I'm Nancy Ritzy, Lynn and Steve's cousin. And first I'm going to read a statement from their very good friends, Elaine and Steve Mulligan. I first met Lynn and Steve when they moved to Long Island, and we quickly became good friends. We played bridge on Friday nights, met for pizza at Angelo's with the kids on many Sunday evenings, and arranged play dates for our boys, Scott and David. You all know how outgoing Lynn is, and by contrast, Steve is quite private and reserved. Over time, his reserve softened, and we found a true and caring friend in Steve. He invited us on many cruises he was planning and never refused an invitation by us for a trip. So we sailed the Mediterranean, the Adriatic Sea, the Aegean Sea, the Bosphorus, and explored Barcelona, Rhodes, Mykonos, Istanbul, Amalfi, Sorrento, Ravenna, Venice, and more recently, Alaska, to name a few. Steve was always game, even when he became less physically capable. One thing that stood out about Steve was his love of Lynn. He has said when he first saw her, his first thought was, who is that goddess? For over 50 years, she was his goddess, and he supported her artwork and her art exhibitions, her close relationships with her parents, aunts, and cousins, even her love of straight-backed family chairs. We will sorely miss our good friend Steve and deeply regret that COVID, our age, and our compromised health has not allowed us to be here in person. And now just a few words from me. I first met Steve in the early 1960s when I was 9 years old. Steve and Lynn had been dating for a while, and it was finally time for him to meet the family at a Thanksgiving dinner. Lynn, wanting to make a good impression on Steve, requested that her father, Milton, and her uncles, Ray, my father, and Joe, Adrian's dad, wear shirts, jackets, and ties, as was customary at the University of Virginia, which Steve was attending. When Steve came to the door, he was greeted by these three jokesters who were wearing their shirts, jackets, and ties, and nothing else but their boxer shorts. Steve took this prank in gracious stride, which was in keeping with his deep love for Lynn and his easygoing and amiable nature. Needless to say that Steve has been a loved member of our family, a devoted husband and father, and an all-around great person, which is what everybody here is saying today. We have enjoyed over 5 decades of a wonderful relationship with Steve. We love him, and we'll miss him very much. We love him too.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Powers, and I'm reading on behalf of my parents, Doris and Mark Rhodes. How do you say goodbye to a dear friend of more than 40 years? With tears and deep sadness. We met Lynn and Steve when we were young adults raising our children. Our friendship continued into middle age with the ups and downs life sent our way. We became more like family. Before we knew it, we were seniors. Or are we now called super seniors? Well, you called super seniors. And our connections became even stronger. How lucky are we to have such wonderful, special friends? We always enjoyed talking about their overseas travel experiences, and were amazed at how well Steve planned each and every trip. When Steve could no longer walk, he bought a scooter. Nothing was going to keep him from having another travel adventure. We've shared so much over the years, good times and sad ones as well. And this is one of the most difficult of all. Time to say goodbye. When we share our birthday, May 3rd rolls around next year, Steve, we will share a glass of wine with Lynn and toast to all the wonderful memories and sing quiet happy birthday in your honor. We will miss you. Thank you for being part of our lives, and may you now find comfort and peace. Sending our love, Doris and Mark.
It's always hard for me as a rabbi to come up with remarks following the loving and poignant and sometimes funny remarks of family and dear friends. And this is the point where the rabbi usually says, well, I never had the pleasure of knowing him. And I can't say that I did, at least not in life, but I actually have a relationship with the family on two levels. Simcha is actually the next door neighbor of my daughter in Israel. They live right next to each other, and I've met Simcha a couple of times in my visits to my kids and my grandkids in Israel. We've walked home from daily services from Minyan together. We had some really interesting conversations. He told me about his life's journey. I told him about mine. And on my last visit, which was just a few weeks ago in June, he mentioned his father's declining and is in your rabbinate. I'm a healthcare chaplain. I work for JCFS Chicago, Jewish Child and Family Services. And he said, can you help? And I said, of course, that's my little piece of the rabbinate. That's what I do. Which led me to the second connection as Steve was declining last week especially. So Lynn and I got to know each other as I offered support to her and to Simcha as he was coming into town, making the referral to my colleague, the Jewish chaplain at Northwestern Hospital, and offering some support on a whole variety of issues. So that's my connection. But Lynn asked me to say a few words on her behalf and on behalf of just summing things up. And it's always hard to sum up the life. And you've heard some remarks already, and thanks to all of you for sharing those. I would frame it from something out of this coming week's Torah reading. In synagogues all over the world, there's a section from Deuteronomy that will be read. It's Parshat Kitetse, and there's a little mitzvah, there's a commandment tucked in. It's not one of the more well-known ones. In fact, even among observant people in this country, it's not well-known, although in Israel it's more well-known. There is a mitzvah, there's a commandment to put a fence, a parapet, a ma'akeh in Hebrew, around the roof of a house. And that's why it's not so well known in this country, because most houses are built like this. People don't go on the roof. But in Israel, you see it frequently, actually. And it's a religious, it's both a safety issue as well as a spiritual and religious commandment to do so with a bracha. It's a blessing that's recited over it as well. A fence around the roof. Steve was your fence. In terms of protection, in terms of mentoring, in terms of his role in the family, he was your ma'akeh, he was your parapet, your fence. A quiet, capable person who loved simple pleasures, loving and introspective, with a huge heart. Little things like loving TV reruns. I don't think anybody's mentioned Judge Judy yet, but yes, that was one of his loves as well. Active and successful at business, in marketing, retail, and insurance, but not materialistic. We've heard it already, but I'm going to say it again myself. Lynn, you were the love of his life. How long have you known each other? Since your teenage years, since you were 16, dating in college, together for 55 years, right? And like all couples and like all successful marriages, there are ups and there are downs and days and nights. And as Lynn put it to me yesterday, it's love story with challenges. Life is not always smooth because nobody has life that is smooth. But they stuck together, complementing each other on so many ways, on so many levels. He was the organized one, she was the creative one, and still is. Not always demonstrative, but always devoted and true. And family meant so much to him. All of you who are here today, how he was close to Lynn's family and your parents, raising Simcha and Suzanne. Of course, losing Suzanne 2 years ago, it's the worst nightmare of any parent. And somehow you and he got through it together. He was and is especially close to the grandchildren, those of you who are here and those in Israel. Again, the lights of his life and how he made you feel loved, cherished you, and how you cherished him, as we heard. Being with you here, traveling with Lynn to Israel and to visit, and all sorts of other places as well. He truly was the ma'akeh, the fence around the roof, that protective, mentoring, sheltering person that you look to and now you miss. His ship has come in, and we celebrate and remember his life. We crack a smile and shed a tear, perhaps in the same breath, in the same moment. And within that thought, there's a poem that I dug up as I was preparing for my remarks today. It's called Before I Go. I don't know who the author is. I don't have it. I couldn't find it. But the poem is beautiful, and I want to read it to you right now. When my life has reached its very end, and I take that final breath, I want to know I've left behind some good before my death. I hope that in my final hour, in all honesty, I can say that somewhere in my lifetime, I've brightened someone's day. That maybe I've brought a smile to someone else's face and made one moment a little sweeter while they dwelled here in this place. Lord, please be my reminder and whisper softly in my ear to be a giver, not a taker, in the years I have left here. Give me the strength I need, open up my mind and my soul, that I might show sincere compassion and love to others before I go. For if not a heart be touched by me, and not a smile was left behind, then the life that I've been blessed with will have been a waste of time. With all my heart, I truly hope to leave something here on earth that touched another, made them smile, and gave to my life worth. Thoughts for him and thoughts for all of us as well. To the family, we offer our condolences at this moment to dear Lynn, to Simcha and Hannah, to Hannah and Yehuda, to Tova and Tamar, to Brian, Joe and Kate, and to little Tohar, who will grow up knowing stories, beautiful, wonderful stories. We affirm the traditional Jewish belief at this moment that his soul has left this earth and returns to its creator, to God, who is the creator of all of us. But at the same moment, we can affirm that there are things that remain with us here on this earth. The love, the relationships, the feelings, the things that we shared with each other, the memories. And those cannot be taken away by any power on this earth. In that sense, he is still very much with us. I'm going to recite a selection from the Psalms. This is Psalm 23. I'm going to say it first in Hebrew, and then I'm going to say it in English. I believe it's on your the booklets that you have handed. You can say it with me if you'd like when we get to the English part. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsor, b'nosteshe yarbitzeni al mei minchos yinahaleni, nafshi yishovi v'amcheni v'magleit tzedek l'man shmo, gam ke'elach b'geit tzamavis lo yirok yato yimadi, shivtecha mishantecha heim yonachamuni, tarach l'fonai shulchan neged sororoi, dishanto v'Hashem en roshi kosi rivoyo, ach tov v'chesed yudifuni kol yemei chayoi, v'shavti b'veis Adonai li'orech yomim. A Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. May his soul be bound up in the bonds of eternal life. I'm going to ask all of you present to rise for a moment of silence and reflection, following which we will chant the memorial prayer. And now the Hazkara, the traditional Hebrew memorial prayer, first in Hebrew and then in English. El Malei Rachamim Shochein Bamromim Hamtzei Menucha Nechona Tachas Kanfei HaShechina B'malos Kedoshim Utehorim Kezara Kiyamaz Hirim Es Nishmas Zandil Breb Yitzchak Shehalach Leolamo Bavur Shekulonu Mispalim B'Hazkaras Nishmaso Began Eden Tehei Menuchaso Lochein Bal Harachamim Yastirehu B'Seser Kanafav Leolamim V'Yitzor B'Tzor Chaimes Nishmaso Adonai Hu Nachalaso V'Yanuch B'Shalom Ishkavo V'Nomar Amen. O God, full of compassion who dwells on high, grant proper rest beneath the sheltering wings of your presence, among the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the heavens, unto the soul of Zandil ben Yitzchak Stephen Miller, who has gone to his eternal rest. May his repose be in paradise. May the Lord of mercy bring him under the cover of his wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bonds of eternal life. May God be his possession, may his repose be peace, and let us all say, Amen. Please be seated.
The interment will take place at Sunset Memorial Lawns in Northbrook. Our procession will be forming in the parking lot. And for those of you joining the procession, we'll make sure that we provide you with an orange funeral sticker, which will be placed on the inside portion of your front windshield on the passenger side. And for an added measure of safety, we'll be providing those vehicles with a magnetic funeral flag to be placed on top of your car. There will be a gathering with the family at Max and Benny's Restaurant. The address in Northbrook is 461 Waukegan Road, directly following the interment. The address is listed on the service folder for those of you present, as well as the memorial contribution. And for those of you who are viewing online, that information on the memorial contribution is listed on the website. The following people have been selected to serve as pallbearers. When I call your name, I'll ask the following men and women to please step forward. Simca Miller, Eleanor Ura, Joel Ura, Adrian Flynn, Nancy Ritzy, and Bruce Romond. I'll ask everyone to please rise now as we escort Mr. Miller's casket from the chapel.